Masking and auditory filters. Masking and auditory filters, forward, backward, simultaneous masking, masked thresholds, narrowband versus broadband noise, basilar membrane, auditory filters, critical bands, ERB, MPEG coding, maybe, and masking exercise. The concept of masking. Simultaneous masking, forward masking, backward masking, auditory filters, and recap of masking of the inner ear. We have the basic communication mode model, should be said. We have speech production, acoustics, channel with noise also included, and speech perception with the receiver and destination. In the last, speech perception is included auditory perception and auditory physiology. So we have the outer ear, the acoustical system with the eardrums, the pinna and this ear channel and eardrums. The middle ear and inner ear with the mechanical system with ossicles in the middle ear. They make an impedance matching to the inner ear, so the fluid in the cochlea can make the basilar membrane oscillate. And from there is also some juicing from in the basilar membranes and the hair cells to convert this mechanical oscillating to auditory nerves, to electric pulses in the auditory nerves. So this is an electrical neural system. We have our hearing threshold for normal hearing. This threshold should be about the resonance frequency about 3,400 to 3,500 hertz in that way. So and the hearing threshold is increasing near the low frequency and the high frequency. So and we also have pain threshold and uncomfortable threshold. Uncomfortable threshold, you can say, is a translation or parallel translation almost from at the hearing threshold and upwards. Not quite. Threshold example, pure tones. So we have a free field, binaural listening, 2 ears, sound come from front, and no background noise, normal hearing, and you are not more than 25 years old, between 18 and 25 years old, one tone at a time. Okay. We have some part of masking, simultaneous masking. We have a simulation, a spectrum level versus sound level, and for white noise with bandwidth B, we have some sound level in dB, SPL, and we also have the so-called spectrum level is dB, SPL per hertz. So the sound level is the spectrum level plus 10 times the 10 log 10 to the bandwidth. So for instance, if you have a spectrum level of 30 dBs in a 100 hertz bandwidth, noise bandwidth 100 hertz. So it's the sound level is 30 plus 10 times logarithm to 100 is 30 plus 10 times 2. That makes 30 plus 20 is 50 decibels. So you have a tone in Broadway. We also have to discern between the white noise in broadband and white noise in the narrowbands or masked Broadway noise. So we have the spectrum level, and we have to pass this to hear some signals. And we also have some, and this shows up that for the broadband band, uh, for fixed frequency, this masking threshold increases linearly with spectrum level of masker. For frequencies more than 500 Hz, the frequency of the test tone is more than 500 Hz, then the threshold, masking threshold increases by 10 dB per decade, for instance, or 3 dB for octave. If you have a 1000 Hz tone, and if it's then getting 2000 Hz, it will increase the level of the test tone by 3 dBs, and so on. Yeah, in the broadband white noise. We also have a frequency dependence of narrowbands, and it comes to all that there are some. If you have some masking at different frequencies, 250 Hz, 1 kilohertz, or 4000 Hz. So the masking curves are quite similar, you can say, if you have a first axis of frequency, so logarithmic build up. So then the level of the test tone, the masker curves are quite similar. If you change the first axis to normal conditions, not log frequency, is different. So mask thresholds narrowband. It shows up that if the masker level is, for instance, 1000 Hz masking tone, then if the level is increasing for the masker, there will be a so-called upward spread of masking. That means that if the masking level is increasing, then the signal threshold also be increased, especially at high frequencies. So, of course, if the signal is a frequency is the same as a masker frequency, so the masking is maximum. If the signal frequency is deviating from the masking frequency, the masking threshold will be less. But at a high masking thresholds, it will at high frequency it will be still high. Those signal, the needed signals in decibels. You also have non-simultaneous, and this so-called excitation patterns can be explained by the auditory filters. Maybe I'll come back to it. I come back to it in this here on the computer anyway. Non-simultaneous masking. Masking can be still be observed even when the masker and signal are not present simultaneous. You can have a forward masking, you have a masking, and then a signal afterwards. Of course, with the time gap between the masking and signal is very little, then you need a big tone signal in high level to overcome the masking. If there is some time gap between them, it's easier to hear. You need a less signal. Yeah. So it turns out the threshold of a short Gaussian pulse as a function of the gap duration after the offset of a noise masker. You have a noise masker and then a test pulse. And will after 200 milliseconds time gap, the noise masking, forward noise masking doesn't have any impact. You can also have backward masking, a little bit strange because you have the signal before the noise masker. And then, of course, if the signal is time gap between the signal and the masker is very little, then you need a bigger signal, a higher signal level to overcome the noise masking. And it turns out that this backward masking have an impact up to on a time gap up to 20 milliseconds. We also have partial masking, where you talk about where you have a partial masking. You have auditory filters. How do it look like this way? Okay, we have an inner ear simplified view. You have the cochlea, and you have some three spaces, you can say, with different kind of liquids: scala vestibula, scala media, and scala tympani. And the membrane, basal membrane, is lying situated between the scala media and the scala tympani. You have frequency analyzer. To each you can say to each frequency there is a certain point on the basilar membrane. If you have different frequencies, it shows up that the high frequencies are situated near the is at the base near the open window, and the lower frequencies are situated near the apex. And you have and all those different frequencies you can explain them by auditory filters. You have a center frequency, and the higher the center frequency is, your broader are those so-called auditory filters. Yes. So in the basal, you can say in the basilar membrane is making some frequency selectivity, and to those belongs some auditory filters. I can explain it better. But, characterizing a bandpass filter, you have a center frequency F0 and a bandwidth. You usually take a range of frequencies with response within a 3 dB peak. So you have a quality factor is F0 divided by the bandwidth, and then you have how can you measure the characterize auditory filters? Experiments by Fletcher shows up that tone in a bandpass noise centered at same frequency. Find threshold of a tone as a function of bandwidth of noise. Okay. Noise density spectral level is held constant, increasing total power with increasing bandwidth. Total power with increasing bandwidth. You increase the bandwidth, and then the signal needed signal is also increasing. Threshold increases with increasing bandwidth. But after about 400 Hz, it becomes flat. The critical bandwidth of 400 Hz, the threshold remains constant with increasing bandwidth. Okay, so we can estimate bandwidth of auditory filters from critical band, a so-called psychophysical threshold test. We have some problems. Estimate of critical bandwidth is not very precise and doesn't tell us the shape of the auditory filters, only the FCB frequency band. Thank you.